Good afternoon, and welcome to all of you who have joined us for this very special and very exciting announcement. Over the past few years, Governor Andrew Cuomo has transformed economic development in New York State with a strategic vision that builds on the state's greatest strengths and assets and empowers the diverse regions within the state to identify and prioritize their individual economic development strategies. From the Regional Economic Development Councils, and the local one, of course, I sit on, which has fostered unprecedented collaboration across the state, to the innovative Startup New York program, Governor Cuomo has created an environment that is reinvigorating economic growth and spurring innovation throughout New York State, with a laser focus on upstate New York. And he has challenged the regions to bring forth new ideas that will attract new types of industries to the state. And here at RIT, we continue to embrace the governor's bold vision. We took this challenge to heart and created the notion of the Magic Spell Studios, which capitalize on RIT's nationally and internationally recognized programs in interactive gaming, film and animation, and imaging science. In fact, our programs in computer gaming and in film and animation are ranked in the top 6 nationally. Magic Spell Studios will make the Rochester region highly competitive for attracting and developing a digital media cluster. The digital media field takes advantage of increasing convergence between the film and animation and video gaming industries. In fact, they're merging into a huge new industry. Films such as The Lord of the Rings and the Iron Man series are great examples of this merger that's occurring. It's a perfect example of how a university can serve both its students and be a regional economic driver. Governor Cuomo, we applaud your leadership and your brilliant vision for New York State. We are all in and committed to working with you and your team to build a vibrant and successful growth industry here in the Finger Lakes region. And we're also very pleased to be joined by representatives of 2 extraordinary corporate partners in this endeavor, Cisco and Dell. You'll hear more about their investments. I haven't introduced them yet. You'll hear more about their investments later, but please welcome from Dell, Ed Cichon. Ed, where are you? There he is. Hi, Ed. And John Godwin, account executive. Where's for higher education? Where's John? Is he here? There he is. Hi, John. And from Cisco, Amy Edwards. I know Amy's here. There she is. Systems engineer and RIT alum, Eric Pilko. Welcome back, Eric. Operations director, Dwight Henning. Is Dwight here? Thank you very much. And from Cisco's local distributor, SMP, Eric Rorapau, who co-owns SMP with his wife, and he's also an RIT alum. RIT is taking over the world, in case you haven't noticed. Please join me in welcoming members of our Rochester area delegation who have also joined us for this afternoon. The delegation has been so supportive of RIT, and we are so pleased that they're able to be with us here today. Let me first acknowledge the Majority Leader of the State Assembly, Joe Morelli. Joe, there he is. Joe has been an advocate and champion of this idea since we had breakfast a couple years ago and said, we could do something really interesting in this space. And Joe's been a real mover and a tremendous supporter. So thanks, Joe, for all your help. Also joined by our great friends, New York Senator Joe Robach. Hey, Joe. And Assemblymember Harry Bronson. Hi, Harry. So please join me in thanking all of them for their tremendous support. And now it's my pleasure to welcome and introduce Howard Zemsky, President and CEO of the Empire State Development Corporation, who is the governor's point person for implementing his vision of economic development for the state of New York. Please welcome Howard Zemsky. Howard?
Good afternoon, everyone. It's great to be here. Thank you, Dr. Dessler. Congratulations to all of you, Board of Trustees, everyone interested in RIT. I want to start with the challenge. I am willing to take on anybody in a game of Pong. Or asteroids. Or whatever you got from the 70s. I don't want to tell you what else I was doing when I was playing Pong. What were you thinking I was doing? I'd like to congratulate RIT. I went off script there, I'm sorry. For their multi-billion-dollar video game, for their leadership, in their multi-billion-dollar video game industry. Their Finger Lakes Regional Economic Development Council recognized RIT's strategy for success in this growing industry by making the RIT Magic Spell Studios a priority project that was awarded $1.5 million by New York State in round 4, and I'm sure you all remember that. The project aligns with the regional strategy of strengthening academic and industry partnerships, which is so important across the state and here in the Finger Lakes. RIT has in fact come up with a winning game plan, that's a pun, that will link RIT's internationally ranked academic programs with high-tech facilities needed to commercialize, that's the key word, computer gaming, film and animation, graphic design, and imaging sciences projects. Magic Spell Studios will join a growing industry cluster, including startup New York company Darkwind Media, which is part of a downtown innovation zone here in Rochester. Industry analysts are predicting the international games market will soon pass the $100 billion mark. And with numbers like those, there are jobs. The Entertainment Software Association estimates that 146,000 people are employed directly or indirectly in the U.S. by the video game industry. These are part of the jobs of the future. Magic Spell is expected to create well more than 100 jobs in the coming years. This is exactly the type of innovative economic development that Governor Cuomo was hoping would come to fruition when he created the Regional Economic Development Councils. Our goal is always to use the public money to induce private sector investment. That is the end game. So we are very pleased to recognize Cisco and Dell and the considerable investments that they have made, and to recognize what great partners they are with RIT. Again, Amy Edwards is here today representing Cisco and their donation of $12.4 million. One more time for Amy, please. And Ed Cichon from Dell, who has made a $3 million donation. Thank you, Ed. None of this would have happened, of course, without the man who had the vision for regional economic development councils, the man who got communities across the state off of the sidelines and into the game of economic development, the man who believed for the first time in about 40 years in the potential of the upstate economy. It's my pleasure to welcome and introduce Governor Andrew Cuomo.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. It's truly my pleasure to be here, although I must admit I'm a little confused. Magic Spell, Dark Wind. And I'm really trying to figure out what Howard Zemsky was doing in the 70s now, and I have all sorts of theories. And I'm afraid of all of them. Dr. Dessler, who is a phenomenal leader for RIT, as you obviously know, But besides RIT, he has been an asset for the entire community. He's an asset for the state. He is truly a visionary. His accomplishment here today shows that he can take that vision and put it together with a plan to make it happen, because those are the two ends of the equation. You need a good idea and you need the ability to get it done. Dr. Dessler is both. We're lucky to have him. Let's give him a round of applause. To Cisco and to Dell, and for their help with today, we thank them very much, and let's give them a round of applause. We have your great delegation members who are with us today: Deputy Majority Leader Joe Morelli, Senator Roback, and Assemblyman Harry Bronson. You'll hear from the Deputy Majority Leader in a moment. But they do a fantastic job representing Rochester and the area. Let's give them a round of applause. And Howard Zemsky, who just recently took over the Empire State Development Corporation, he is spent years, the past few years, working on the turnaround of Buffalo. And when I say turnaround of Buffalo, I mean turnaround of Buffalo. We started 4 or 5 years ago. Buffalo was, from an economic point of view, the low spot in the state of New York. It was the greatest economic challenge. Not just for the state, but nationally, the city and the region was an economic challenge. And we started something called Regional Economic Development Councils that go through the principles that Howard mentioned, a couple of points I'll make in a moment. But it's about leadership, as are most endeavors in life. And Howard took the reins of the Buffalo Regional Economic Development Council with the simple mission of doing a 180 with the Buffalo economy, ending 40 years of decline and turning the arrows. And by gosh, they did. And you go to Buffalo now, it is a different city. It is a different region. It believes in itself. The arrows are pointed in the right direction. Jobs are coming back, and people are coming back. It's one of the great economic turnarounds in this country, and it wouldn't have happened without Howard Zemsky. And he's now come to run the state and have the pleasure of having to deal with me on a 24-hour basis. Let's give him a round of applause, Howard Zemsky. A couple of quick points that you know already. From our vantage point, we are interested in seeing our universities do well. We're interested in seeing the state's economy rebound, especially in upstate New York. And before you can decide what the solution is, you have to make sure you understand what the problem is. And you have to be frank and candid about the problem. Dr. Dessler said we've been focusing on upstate New York. Howard Zemsky said we've been focusing on upstate New York. Why? Because we've been focusing on upstate New York. Because the economy in upstate New York is markedly different than the downstate economy. New York City has suffered at times, but knock wood, there's now a positive synergy about the city. It's growing and almost feeding on itself. So the city economy is very strong, but the upstate economy is not as strong relatively, and the upstate economy nationwide is one of the slower economies in the country. Why? Well, is it just the geographics? It's more than that. And we started with an honest diagnosis of the problem. Number one is what I call the hangover New York arrogance. The New York arrogance was, we're New York, businesses have to be here. Why? Because we're New York. Where else can they go? Where else would they go? There really is no alternative to New York. And for so many years in our history, we were the capital of business, right? Upstate New York was the manufacturing capital. Downstate New York was the budding financial capital. And business did want to be here. And because they wanted to be here, and we assumed they wanted to be here, we became arrogant in the relationship. Meaning, well, we can raise taxes because they don't really have a choice, and we can add more and more burdensome regulations because they don't really have a choice. And that worked for a period of time, because begrudgingly they said, well, we're here, we may as well stay. But at one point it mounted, and to a critical juncture, the population, businesses became more mobile, and they said, we're leaving. We're leaving. There is a point of inflection where it became easier for people and businesses to leave. That happened in upstate New York first, before downstate New York. And you saw the exodus, and then it started to feed on itself. They found out there actually was an alternative to New York. If you take a map and you look at a map and you look to the west of New York, you will see other shapes, rectangles, triangles. Those are called other states. They are not New York, but they are habitable spaces. And when you put enough pressure on people, they will move to those other habitable spaces, and they have done that. We recognize that, and we have done everything we can to reverse it. We've reduced taxes every year for 4 years, and we have taxes down to historic lows. Every person in this room, every income bracket pays a lower income tax rate than they did 4 years ago. We have the corporate tax rate down, manufacturing tax rate down, small business tax rate down, all the taxes are down. And then we started a program called Startup New York, which takes that concept to an almost absurd ultimate, which is any new business started in New York, no taxes for 10 years, period. That's the whole program in one line, which makes New York the least expensive place in the United States to start a business. Because even if you have a state with zero income tax, they have some other tax, a property tax, value-added tax, etc. So what is the least expensive place to start a business? State of New York. Well, I thought New York was the high tax capital. Not anymore. We're the opposite. Second issue that New York had to deal with, and I'm not certain where it developed, but we were not as fast as other states in the tech transfer space. We just weren't. And we were not as facile in the transition that saw academic universities also become oriented as commercial centers. We were much more siloed. We are an academic institution, and that's what we do is academics, and commercialization is something else. Other people do that. Business people do that. Other states, notably California, parts of Texas, they made both adjustments faster than we did. They were faster on the tech transfer, faster on the commercialization, faster in understanding that academic universities have now become economic generators for regional growth. And that's what we are working through now to try to catch up and excel and making those marriages and creating that orientation. What we've done with the state university system, we put these startup zones on college campuses. So a college campus is now the tax-free zone for incubators, et cetera. But what you're talking about today and what Dr. Dessler has been talking about brings it all together. It brings it all together. A great academic university that is then working with private sector companies in that tech transfer space and a commercialized application. It will create jobs. I believe it can spur a cluster economy unto itself because this is a growth area, there's no doubt. Maybe Howard Zemsky was good at it in the 70s, but it's a totally different space now. And it is a growing space and an exciting space. And this is what New York has not done for the preceding 4 or 5 decades, and is exactly where we need to go as a state. And RIT is once again leading the way. As Mr. Zemsky said, our final piece of the New York puzzle is we want to invest when we see an opportunity that is going to create jobs. We've brought down the hurdles, we've brought down the taxes, we're working on the transitions. But when we see a business opportunity to spur a cluster growth, to create jobs, to help a regional economy, we want to be the last dollar on the table with our private sector partners. That's why I'm pleased to announce on behalf of the state of New York and the legislature of the state of New York, we are going to invest $12 million in this project because we believe in it, and we believe that it will return dividends to the taxpayers of the state of New York. Congratulations.
Please welcome Majority Leader Joe Morelli, our good friend, who will give us a few remarks on this auspicious occasion. Joe?
Thank you. I hate to do that, Governor, but yeah. So I need a little boost there. Yeah, that's right. First of all, just let me congratulate Bill Dessler, the RIT team, the Board of Trustees for your steadfast commitment to our region and to excellence in everything that you do. And Bill's right, we talked about this a year and a half ago and talked about the great work that you've done and how we could continue to accelerate that. I want to certainly thank Dell and Cisco and all the private partners for their investment, for their vision, and seeing what this will become, and it is going to be extraordinary. I also just want to take a moment. Not only are we in the Capitol for a day today, we're having actually a lot of fun. Maybe too much fun. Joe Robach and the governor, when they get together, it's explosive. But I'm thinking of actually asking the governor to move the Capitol here permanently, but I don't want to push my luck. But one thing I do want to say about the governor, I have the privilege and the honor of working with him on a daily basis. And during the legislative session in particular, I'm on the phone with him multiple times, typically in a day. And the governor is not just talking about upstate New York today because he's in Rochester, New York. He talks about it every day. I've not seen someone in my long service in the state who has a focus, a dedication, a commitment, and who's not willing just to talk about it, but is willing to do something about it every day. And this governor is a man of action, and I often describe him as impatient in an affectionate and way with great admiration, Governor, of course. Yeah, of course. But he's not into long-term planning. He is, but he doesn't want it to be long-term planning. He wants it to be short-term planning. But he is dedicated to it. Startup New York, which I think will be, in just a few years, people will look back and say this was an extraordinary vision because it's going to grow thousands of jobs in the state, and it's going to grow thousands of jobs hopefully right here. And we're pleased Dado from RIT's roots was the first company in this region to do it, one of the first in the state. But I just wanted to get up and just tell you that on a day-to-day basis, there is a laser beam focus by Andrew Cuomo, and he gets things done. Today is another great example of it, and I wanted to get up and thank him personally for his dedication, his commitment, unwavering to upstate New York and to the Rochester region. So, Governor, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I have to give equal time to the Senate. Senator Joe Robach. Joe, come on up.
Good afternoon, everybody. Delighted to be here. We always, governing is interesting, but we all love good news. And I would concur with Joe Morelli. This is not this governor's first trip to Rochester. He has certainly been here many times. And before the election, for those of you that know me, I wear that parochialism like a badge of honor. But the governor said that he would give equal focus to upstate New York and Rochester. And I'll thank him publicly for living up to the pledge before the election, because many times some people in politics say one thing before the election and do something after. You did the opposite, and thank you for that. This is really great. I would just concur with Joe Morelli. We kind of watched this and thank RIT for the vision, the private partners, Dell and Cisco, for making it happen, and this is exactly what we look for. Public-private collaboration on something that can not only be interesting and exciting for our region, but also add to jobs and commercialization. And this video gaming, film, and animation is growing in the billions and billions of dollars. I wasn't even up to Pong, so I'm behind Howard. But I know all my children and so many people I know, that is certainly a recreational source and something people are willing to spend a lot of money on for gifts, for their personal recreation. So this is great. We are now poised at 6 in the nation on this. Hopefully by all working together right here at RIT and in New York State, we're going to move right up to number 1. So thank you all. Continued success. Oh. And now I get to call back the president for the unveiling and ask everybody else to come on up, right?
Thank you.
All right.
Exactly.
All right.
Exactly. Yeah, we're going to have a little unveiling of a rendering of the Magic Spell Studios facility that might actually have some relation to the building we're going to build. Okay. Come on up. We're all going to get. Come on. Come on.
No, you're not going to stand. No.
All right, we got a kind of a big group and a small. Come on in, Amy. Yeah, come on in, Amy. Here you go. Okay. All right. So, are you ready? Let's do a countdown. 3, 2, 1. Hey. And that concludes our remarks today. Thanks again to our corporate sponsors, Cisco and Dell, and thanks to the governor, Howard Zemsky, and to the entire state crew for working so hard with us on this announcement. And I think this truly will be a great moment in RIT's history, but I think also in the region's history. If we don't actually turn this into a major economic development engine for our region, then shame on us. So let's get to work. Congratulations.